VoodooSlams Dark Knight Rises review. Well, Batman Trilogy.
Batman Trilogy review. Get it right. We're going to talk about the whole
Nolan's
thing. Well, we're not going to talk about the
Batman
whole thing.
Trilogy.
That would just take way too much time.
Considering every movie is about 3 hours
Yeah.
long.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take the first 2 movies, Begins and The Dark Knight, and we're each going to come up with like 2 points that we just want to talk about, something about the movie that we just want to say. We're going to have 2 each, and then at the end we're going to like dive in and give like a full definitive review of The Dark Knight Rises. It's going to be cool.
I'm Sammy Voodoo.
I'm Mark Slams.
And this is our Batman Trilogy review. Alright, so Batman Begins came out in like 2005, and honestly, I didn't really remember that there was a Batman Begins. It was just kind of there, like, I didn't remember it, it wasn't really memorable in my mind. The only thing I really could recall from it was the fact that there was Dr. Crane, and that's only because he's made cameos in the other movies. So for me, it was just kind of like, oh, yeah, that's relevant to The Dark Knight Rises. Oh yeah, crap, I'd better go back and see it again. And then I did, and then I remembered why I didn't remember it, because it was not memorable in my mind at all. Alright, now plot hole time. There was a microwave emitter and this hallucinogen that was put in the water, and it was in the water for a few weeks. And basically the whole thing was that this hallucinogen could not be ingested and have effects taken, like the effects wouldn't take hold until it was actually inhaled. Now, unless if I'm wrong, the people in Gotham must take showers. Like, they have to take showers, they have to boil water, they have to do other things that involve water vapor rising and, kind of disintegrating into the air and having it all being breathed in. So, I'm wondering how nobody had the effects of this take hold before the microwave emitter came into play. Because if I was taking a shower and I was, it was all hot and the vapor was rising and I was breathing in, singing in the shower or whatever, and all of a sudden I'm starting to hallucinate, I would think maybe I should go to the hospital.
Like that.
Like that. Exactly like that. Like, I would not expect to start hallucinating in the shower. And I'm just wondering how they didn't address that. Like, the whole thing was that everyone was going to go crazy at once, and in my mind I would think that maybe they would have some people going crazy beforehand.
So the one thing that really bugs me about Batman Begins is I think something that, everybody seems to talk about when they talk about things that are wrong with that movie is the fact that the fight scenes were, let's face it, they were shot in a piss-poor manner. It just wasn't good. The shaky camera, and extreme close-ups, you have no idea what's going on and who's doing what. All you're hearing is just sounds of people hitting other people and chaos. And then when the camera settles down, everybody's on the ground holding their heads or whatever. No, like that's not how you do it. It needs to be clear. It needs to be concise. It needs to be exciting. I wasn't excited at all whenever Batman would get into a fist fight in that movie because they were just handled so terribly. Like, I don't know what happened there, but maybe they just didn't have the money to spend on like an actual stunt team. I don't know. I just found that to be very just not good with that movie. Yeah. Oh. The other thing that I'm not a huge fan of and that I feel the need to address when I talk about Batman Begins is the choice of villains. The actors they used were fine. Liam Neeson and Cillian Murphy gave fantastic performances, respectively, as Ra's al Ghul and the Scarecrow, Dr. Jonathan Crane. it was, yeah, like I said, the performances were fun. They did okay. However, as villains, as characters, they weren't quite up to snuff, especially when you compare them to the villains in the other two movies. When you have the Joker and Two-Face, and then you also have Bane now, and Bane, I think, is going to go down as a classic movie villain, just the way the Joker did. So, yeah, that, to me, wasn't handled very well at all. They kind of dropped the ball there, to me, in my opinion, when it came to the villains. And also, because I'm harping on the movie, I really like that movie. Like, these are nitpicks. I'm a huge fan of that movie. It is still, of the trilogy, of all Batman movies ever made, Begins is still, to me, the best Batman movie that we have. It's the most about what Batman would do in those types of situations. The gadgetry was right. The amount of sneaking balanced against the amount of open fist fights was done right. I'll talk about that in a second with The Dark Knight. But yeah, it's a good movie. Definitely well placed within the trilogy. Excellently shot. Beautifully edited, save for the fight scenes, of course, because they suck. But yeah, that's The Dark Knight. Batman Begins. Wow. Hi, I'm Batman.
Okay, so The Dark Knight. I have to say that one of my biggest pet peeves with The Dark Knight is Batman's voice. It's a big controversy. I know that it's a big thing with Batman's voice, but to me, it's too much. Where are they? Where's Rachel? To me, it was just way too much, and it kind of detracted from the character. You know, he's kind of an interesting character, not my favorite by any means, but, I mean, compared to, like, the way that Heath Ledger did the Joker's voice, where it's, want to know how I got these scars, and he's, like, subtle about it, but still shows he's insane, versus, like, Crazy Bat going, like, it bothered me a lot. I'm the plot hole person. Okay, there's a scene where, like, Batman, Bruce Wayne is holding this charity ball fundraiser thing for Harvey Dent. Okay, that's believable, whatever. And there's all these rich people in the room. Rachel's in the room. Harvey's in the room. People are screwing in Bruce Wayne's bed because, hey, why not, right? And all of a sudden, the Joker and his cronies showed up, and, okay, whatever. And then it becomes this whole thing about, my wife was beautiful, like you, Rachel, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and Rachel Dawes gets tossed out the window. And Batman follows her, leaving the Joker in this room full of rich people with a bunch of his cronies and no Batman to save the day. So I'm wondering why Batman doesn't use his Batarang gun shooter thing and use that to kind of grab onto Rachel, tie her to the building, hold her there the way that Spider-Man uses his spider web to, like, catch people and save them and stuff, and actually, take care of the Joker. Because it's this big plot hole where now the Joker's in a room with these people, and there's nobody to save them. They're just chilling in the room with the Joker. Hey, maybe they're all drinking some, like, wine and eating some cheese, shooting the shit, because the Joker's in there, and hey, why not, right? So, big plot hole, not pleased. Not pleased at all. Keep that in mind.
The Dark Knight. It's the first thing when you think of The Dark Knight. The Joker? Maybe. If you're a good and decent person who enjoys movies and likes actors who play in movies, especially in classic performances such as the Joker. What do you think of that man's voice? And how ridiculous it was? I gotta bring that up too. I'm sorry. Hate to be redundant. I don't like people who repeat themselves normally. But, yeah, Batman's voice. What was going on with that? Like, I understand that you need to disguise your voice as Batman. You don't want to just use your regular Bruce Wayne voice. And to be perfectly honest, as the movie went on, I kind of tuned into it, as it were. I really didn't mind it by the end of the movie. There were just a couple parts where I was just like, Jesus, this guy sounds ridiculous. Yeah, so that was definitely a bothersome point. Although, it didn't bug me as much as it maybe bugged some other people. Still, when I think of Batman, I don't think of this kind of voice. I think of Kevin Conroy's very, very stoic, very, 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 very cool Batman. Yeah, the Kevin Conroy is still Batman to me, in my heart. Christopher Nolan addressed the fight scenes in The Dark Knight the same way a child would address a homework assignment that he did poorly on, by just completely 180ing and doing the exact opposite of what he did in the previous movie, where you had fight scenes that were shaky and shittily shot with extreme close-ups and all that crap, and it was terrible. He went fine, and instead he gave us these big, long, wide, sweeping tracking shots, and you see exactly what's going on. Again, he kind of dropped the ball. It kind of feels choreographed to me. They're not quite as real as they should seem. There's nothing wrong with the choreography, don't get me wrong, because, as a huge fan and proponent of the stunt community myself, I have to say that, the fight scenes, as choreographed pieces, they were good, but as the way they should feel in a movie, just intense, they weren't. Didn't like them. And that's that. Motherfucker. And another thing, what was up with not sneaking in The Dark Knight? Batman just not sneaking in that movie?
Batman is a detective that likes to be very in your face. He's like, I'm Batman, and I don't give a flying beep, because I'm Batman and I'm going to be in your face about it. He doesn't care about sneaking.
But no, that's not Batman.
Especially after everything he learned in the League of Shadows, where it was all about sneaking.
Like, was he just trying to go completely against them and go, no, I don't need the training that they did. I'm going to dive into the middle of, 18 people and just beat the piss out of them.
Yeah, I
Which
really,
he did.
I don't understand it either. I know that that's his, M.O. He's supposed to be like a bat. He's supposed to be stealthy, not, making a lot of noise and whatnot. But that's what he did, and not much we can really do about it, unfortunately.
It sucks. And now, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's main event, The Dark Knight Rises.
Shay.
What are you wearing?
My name is Bane, Shay.
Oh.
I'm a gangster, Shay.
You run a gang.
Shay. I feel like I should have a cigar sticking out of my mask of morphine.
There should have been a little indent in the middle of his mouth, where he could just shove Cubans and just light them up.
That would be pretty awesome.
Hey, Matt,
I've been wondering how he ate.
I think everyone's been wondering how he ate. Just does he endure just the most intense pain?
Maybe it's an intravenous thing, because with his bulging muscles, I saw veins sticking out.
So what, is he just on a totally liquid diet then?
Protein, liquid. It's like steaks are cooked and then pureed and shoved into his veins, and that's it. It's pure protein shake.
Tom Hardy's known to get beefy. You've seen the trailer for, what's that movie called?
Bronson?
Bronson, yeah. You've seen the trailer for Bronson. And it's definitely a great flick. And he just put on he's built like a brick shithouse in that movie. And then again in Warrior, he's he's maybe a bit leaner, but he's still
Hey, him and Christian Bale are both, like, method actors, because Christian Bale loses weight and then gains it back and might even be on steroids.
He actually ripped his first bat suit.
Yeah, like, he had to lose some of his muscle because of how ripped he got.
He packed on so much muscle that he ripped the bat suit. That's badass. Can anybody else make that claim? I don't think so.
Yep. Probably because all their bat suits were, like, molded muscles and they actually didn't do anything.
And they had nipples on them.
Bat nipples. Bat nipples.
So the bat voice, let's talk about this. Let's get this out of the way.
He did tone it down. I liked that a lot. He did tone it down. I think that they decided that there's only going to be one indistinguishable voice per film.
Yeah, that seems to be the way. That does definitely seem to be the way. There's always just somebody you can't understand.
And I mean, like, Tom Hardy, I understood him for the most part. There were definitely times that I had a really hard time understanding what he said. It took seeing it. Even after seeing it a second time, I still didn't quite catch everything.
Yeah, neither did I. You really, like, they mixed him higher. Like, he speaks at a higher volume than basically everything else going on in any scene that he's in. But I think they did that as a measure to help people understand what he's saying. But even with that, you still really have to, like, tune in and, like, really, like, try to decipher what he's saying. He needed subtitles. I'm sorry, he needed subtitles.
I can't wait to get it on DVD specifically so I can put on the subtitles and actually understand.
He should have spoken in a foreign language. And they should have given him subtitles. That could have actually
made sense.
Yeah, but no. Yeah. And let's talk about Bane's voice.
What about it?
How Bane's voice was like that of a 1960s cartoon Batman villain. Wait, they didn't have a Batman cartoon in the 1960s. That was in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s.
But they were drawing inspiration from those villains, and that, my friend, is what's matters.
But I do believe that even though his voice was a bit... I want to say... What's the word I'm looking for?
His voice was a little bit over the top.
Over the top. It didn't fit his body. Like, that's what he was going for, was a voice that didn't fit the body. But
and that's the point.
I think they kind of went in the wrong direction with it. But at the same time, I can't help but think of Bane as just like one of those classic movie villains. The only villain that, honestly, I can legitimately compare him to is Darth Vader. Is definitely Darth Vader. Like, it's just... the way he thinks, the way he's in there with his guys.
And he's just evil.
And he's evil.
That about him.
He's evil as shit.
And he's not afraid to admit it.
But he thinks he's doing the right thing.
Yeah, he has...
he believes he's doing the right thing, and that is the mark of a good villain.
He has that drive. He has belief. It's like, isn't that what Alfred was talking about? Like, he believes in what he's fighting for.
He sees
and that gave him the edge.
Belief. And Batman's just kind of like... I'm gonna do this again, I guess.
Fight people and reach.
It's been a while since I had my bat suit on. Let's throw it on and give this a whirl.
I'm all crippled and shit.
I really want to try out flying that thing that Fox built. It looks awesome, even though there's no autopilot.
The bats.
No autopilot.
Spoilers!
I didn't say anything.
Oh yeah, this video is gonna have spoilers, just saying.
Maybe a couple. So yeah. What else about The Dark Knight Rises was...
Well, I would like to talk about my main plot hole, because that's all I talk about is plot holes.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, so spoiler alert for everyone who didn't know.
Yeah,
they've seen
the movie already.
It's kind of impossible to have not seen it at this point.
I imagine
after a weekend.
I imagine if people are watching this video, they've seen it.
So, at the end of the movie, well, the whole thing is that there's like this giant neutron bomb or nuclear whatever, and, you know, it's set to go off, kind of. It gets unstable by a certain point, and that's when it goes off.
I think I see where you're going with this.
First off, how can they predict exactly when it's going to go unstable?
Right.
Well,
they were estimating. It was by Bane's calculations.
Okay, so calculations and estimations still don't predict the exact moment. Okay?
Yeah, true.
So the exact moment. It could have gone off a day earlier,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So it has like a countdown and everything, which doesn't make sense, but okay. Disregarding all of that, Batman has it attached to his bat, his big bat, and he's dragging it on the ground.
Just slamming it in between
slamming
buildings.
it into things. And my whole thoughts, like the exact times that I'm watching it and I'm on the edge of my seat and I'm like, when did all that set it off?
Reasons. Yeah, exactly. Like
the impact of unstable enough to go off in 30 seconds because it's unstable, not because somebody's about to push the button, but
they
because
took the
it's so
core out to
unstable.
destabilize it, and then he just ends up slamming it into.
And I'm like watching it on, and then they show that scene where it's like the cloud of there's like rubble and stuff, and all the kids on the bus are like, "Oh my god, it went off!" And I'm like, that's a really small blast. But it must have gone off.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. And then he comes out of the smoke, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
And this isn't even to mention that radiation, all that radiation that's now out on the water that's going to blow back into Gotham City and
or in the water supply. The people in France are obviously not worried if they're off having coffee and shit.
So that's what basically...
baguettes.
Spoiler, that's basically how this movie ends. Bruce Wayne leaves Gotham to die in a toxic soup because he blew up a neutron bomb. He left his city to die. Bane wins in the end.
The end. Peace out.
We should do like a Batman disappear thing. Didn't you have that explosive powder?
I did. Where'd it go?
Batman!
Okay, so final thoughts.
Final thoughts on the trilogy as a whole?
Yes.
I'd have to say that when it comes to the trilogy as a whole, I think that we got a series of excellent films.
Yes.
The first movie is a Batman film. The second movie is a crime film. And the third movie is a war film. That just so happened to be set in Gotham City and feature Batman and Batman characters.
And a lot of commentary on the status of everything going on in today's society.
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of the whole trilogy did.
The whole trilogy did. The first one played on our fears of... shadowy,
drugs,
shadowy corporate and political figures that are pulling the strings of society.
Everyone's corrupt and police are being paid off and stuff, whereas the second one was about extraction because Lao was in another country and oh man, the Batman has no jurisdiction.
Yeah, exactly. The second one was about Batman being pushed to his limit.
And then the third one was obviously a big thing about, like, we are the 99, Bane is our leader. Kind of struck me almost like Hitler-y.
Right.
In a way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, well, that's definitely what they were going for, was like a type of Hitler thing. He was supposed to be like half
a dictator,
half revolutionary.
Dictator-ary.
Yeah. I do have to say that Bane is an evil genius.
Oh yeah.
Like his plan made more sense than the Joker's. Was more devastating than the Joker's. The Joker just wanted to cause chaos, whereas Bane wanted to take over Gotham.
Which I think was a good introduction to kind of, like, even though so much time had passed, especially with all of the things going on with Harvey Dent and stuff, it was a good introduction for the character, in a way. Like, you have chaos, and then you have, like, this structured chaos where it's chaos, but it's disguised as something else. I thought that was a really good way to do it. My final thoughts are that the first movie, you needed it for the third movie, but honestly, you didn't really need it. In my opinions, could be because I didn't remember it so much. The second movie is great as a standalone. You wouldn't need to see the first or the third to really have an idea about it. It establishes Batman as a character. It establishes a villain on its own. You don't need any background, really. Like, Rachel's introduced, Harvey Dent's introduced, just, like, without any need for the first movie. And then the third one definitely draws on the first two, but it does it in a way where it has the clips, so for someone like me with really bad memory, you actually can follow along if you haven't seen the other two.
My final thoughts are another thing I want to address. In The Dark Knight, Batman threw no batarangs. In The Dark Knight Rises, Batman fired no grapple gun. Batman's just about his gadgets as he is about sneaking around and fighting people and being an awesome detective.
But he didn't sneak in the second one.
Exactly.
So it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
This is a realistic
Which is why I'm
Batman.
looking forward to the next series of Batman movies that are going to come out now that Nolan has departed from them. It's going to be nice to see a fresh voice take on Batman. It'll be nice to see if they go even further away from the comics, or if they go back to the comics for more inspiration, or if they decide to remake a movie. A Serious House on Serious Earth? Make that movie. Please, dear God, make that movie. I'll write it for you if you pay me.
Just don't include bat nipples.
Oh,
I can't take any more bat nipples.
No bat nipples.
There were enough in that one movie. There really were.
Should have just twisted his bat nipples.
Well, on top of the fact that Rachel, the first movie,
was
all about Rachel nipples.
Well, that's Katie Holmes. That's Katie Holmes' claim to fame is. Yeah.
So yeah, that's our Christopher Nolan Batman Trilogy review.
That's our Batman Trilogy review. If you haven't seen these movies, and if you're a red-blooded American, I have no idea why you haven't. It's a bunch of British people that made awesome movies.
About American citizens.
Yeah.
I definitely recommend it. I recommend The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises more so than Batman Begins.
I'd recommend all three. All three are definitely worth watching. The first one, if you're willing to put up with some shitty fight scenes.
And cheesy scenes as well.
Yeah, there's definitely groaners and cheesers in the movies, but hey, what
and
movie
if you're
doesn't
willing
have
to
them?
put up with gaping plot holes, but that's just because I'm a nitpicker, after you actually see the movie and enjoy the movie, and enjoy it for what it is, like a great movie, and start paying attention to the plot, then you start really focusing on that stuff.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they're awesome movies. Don't get me wrong.
I say sit down and watch them. If you've already seen them, sit down and watch them again. They're definitely worth it. Thanks, Christopher Nolan. You're a good guy.
Thank you for having Tom Hardy.
One thing that we did feel like that we need to mention, it's kind of the elephant in the room whenever you're talking about The Dark Knight Rises now,
Yeah.
is the tragic occurrence in Aurora, Colorado that happened during the midnight screening of the movie.
It was a tragedy. It really sucks that it happened, and my thoughts go out to the families and the victims.
Yes, our deepest sympathies go out to everybody affected by this tragedy, which is a great number of people, not just in that town, but all across the country, ourselves included. It's just an awful, senseless, terrible thing that happened, and we are very, very sorry for everything that happened.
Yeah, it shouldn't have happened. And it's, like, truly awful.
It is. But if anything, if at all, could be gained from this chaos is the fact that I've seen the photos that have come out of Aurora since then. Countless memorials. Christian Bale himself showing up on his own dime.
The community has come together to pull through it, which is always
a good
great thing to say.
There is an old quote out there, an old saying that says, "Through tragedy can come positivity." I'm paraphrasing, of course.
Okay.
But just that sense of togetherness, that camaraderie that we've seen from Colorado, hopefully that's something that can be shared as a country as we move into the future and begin the healing process. So again, everyone in Aurora, our thoughts, our hearts go out to you. We hope everything is okay for you in the end.